Hello, adventures. It's your man Zero here, your favorite hero. Guys, in this one, we're going to be going over some of the tactics and features of battles that you really need to know in order to take yourself from beginner to an advanced player. Let's check it out. All right, guys, so here we are in one of the battles. This is versus the Calamity. This is, I believe, the 7th mission that you will fall into, the one right before we get Spiral of Destinies. But this is a great one to utilize to show you guys some of these game features. So we do have the barrels here. They're all over the map, super important. And I'll show you guys how those can be utilized, both with using your tactician skills and also with utilizing an archer or an attacker to be able to blow up these in order to do some massive AoE damage and kill some units. So here, first thing that we want to do is we do want to recognize what characters or what enemies we have on our map. So we do have, of course, Metha. Metha is the unit that has to be on the field. So that's why there is no blue tile underneath her, so she has to maintain. Next, we actually have two other shield units. So we know the shield units are actually weak against fighter units. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring in our Knighted Pikemen. We can bring them and drop them right into that spot there. Next up, we have two attack type units right here, and we know that attack type units are actually weak against the secret class, like little ninjas. So we're going to bring our secret class unit right here, the Crimson Falcon. And next up, we're going to bring an archer. Archers are always very useful just to do some additional support damage, and even actually taking out these barrels because they don't have to get close enough to actually explode them, and therefore sacrificing their own lives, because barrels do affect your characters as well as the NPC's characters. So super important. So here now we do have a nice kind of layout of, who's attacking us and who we have in our map and on our team to best support us in terms of success. So here, let's start off this mission. All right, so the Calamity moves forward, and here we actually realize what we first have. This is kind of more advanced. You'll see a little bit more of this detail and later on in this video, but we're going to ignite the background behind us. So as the MC, the main character, you do have the ability to use tactician skills, which you can utilize at the beginning of a battle, and I believe in some cases, beginning of turns. So in this case, we're going to be using a lightning bolt and actually blowing up those barrels behind the Calamity. There they go. And you'll notice that they actually do apply a ground effect. This is the burn effect. It affects those tiles. It stays for quite a while. And if any unit, including your own party members, steps onto that tile, they do receive some damage from burn. So you basically want to utilize that as kind of like your, no pun intended, firewall, right? You want to utilize that so that way enemies have to go through the fire in order to get to you. Or you can push them back into it, which is what we're going to be doing in this case, in order to do some damage to the Calamity while we're not actually attacking it. So let's go forward and use Metha. Metha is going to utilize one of her skills, which is going to be the leg slam here, which does do knockback, which will push that unit back 2 spaces. So you'll notice that his HP is quite high at 999. So we do need to use these kind of tactics in order to best support our victory in these battles. Next, we have the pikeman here. You notice that the pikeman did take some damage there really quickly, but not very much. And the reason why is because he not only is he strong to do damage against the shield units, but he also is strong to take damage from them. So it's always a very good idea to place a unit like that where you know they're going to reach them, and so that way he can take like the first hit and actually save some of your other units' life and HP. So what I'm going to do, I actually want to do a different tactic here because I want to show you how the archer can help us in battle. I'm going to move my spearman up to this fire tile. Okay, so I do want to showcase this really quickly, but I'll do it with my seeker. There are 2 different types of transversal of environment. So I'm going to move my my spearman up there. He is going to be on the fire tile, and you notice that he'll take some damage. Boom. So he took 34 damage from the fire tile. So next up we have our Seeker, and we're actually going to move our Seeker up all the way up to here. So I do want to showcase these 2 different types of maneuvering. So you can click on cells and then you do maneuver to those cells, but sometimes it's kind of tricky to get to like ones that you really, really want that are hard. Like you see I got in there, but if you're having a hard time, what you can actually do is you can actually push and hold onto the character. And of course, if you're on mobile, then you push and hold them with your finger and you can actually drag them right to where you want. You can actually see the follow path. And then once you're there, you can actually do the attack. Here, you actually can see that I do additional damage to these units because I am winning that damage triangle. So let's take this guy out. Awesome. All right, and we do have the ability to move again with the Seeker. I don't believe it's every single unit that is a Seeker that has this ability, but it's a very useful one. So I'm just going to move up here because that increase in elevation does give me some support and defense abilities. So when onto there, I'm going to hit standby. All right, so now I have my archer, but before my archer actually goes, I want to actually show you some of the different mechanics here in the UI. So we do have this one right here. What this one does is it basically shows you who can attack you from where, which tile is safe. So the purple ones are the ones that are not safe. Enemies can attack you in those spaces. So you can see the little arches and actually shows you who can actually attack you. Either these guys and even that guy can attack you within those spaces. And here you're safe. But we're not actually worrying about that too much because we can do something crazy to these guys that will just take them out really quickly, and then my archer is safe. But another feature that I want to show you on the actual UI is actually this identifier here. What shows you first the triangle, so that way you kind of see it there. And next you can actually see the turn order. So you can see that this attacker is next, followed by the spearman, followed by the chaos agent, so on and so forth. So what we want to do is we can plan our moves accordingly to take out the next person in line, so that way they don't have a chance to attack my units and do some damage. So from here, I am actually going to attack the barrel. So one other thing to point out is when we are in the attack phase, especially with archers and magic users, sometimes it's tricky to actually hit like somebody, right? Like maybe say we wanted to hit that guy, and it was a really hard way to hit him. Like we can every time we clicked, we just clicked there. Well, there's this little toggle button here in the left corner of the enemy identifier, and when you press it, actually toggles through all of the destructible materials and or enemies that you can hit. So here we can actually be like, okay, we're going to be going until we get the explosive wooden barrel, and it's selected by a darker tone, or rather a more yellow tone. So we're going to hear, and we're going to confirm, and that's going to explode. And that AoE damage does a massive amount of work on it, just takes out those two guys right away, which is fantastic. Barrels and other in-game materials like that play a huge role. Next up, at the end of that turn, we actually did notice that these two additional icons showed up here. So what this basically indicates to us is if we do not finish this turn before everybody like goes through the phases, then two new units will be coming in of the opposing faction to do damage to us. So we need to take these guys out as soon as possible in order to prevent that from happening. So what we're going to be doing first is we are going to be taking Mithilda, going here and doing some damage to this guy right here. We can't use a scale, so we can't push him back, but we can do some general damage. Yeah, the spearman goes. He's going to do some damage to my Mitha. Okay, now I want to move my spearman, and I want to move him here. But before I do that, I just want to showcase the way that you can click on enemies in order to see where they can actually move to and where they can actually attack. So if you actually click on an enemy, right? If you click on an enemy right here, you can actually hit view, and this will actually show you where they can move and where they can attack. And then if you clicked on a different enemy, you can actually see their movement and their attack capabilities. So that's a good way to being able to identify where you need to place units in order to best survive their attacks. So in this case, we're not going to be worrying about it too much because it's going to be a quick battle from here. I'm actually going to move my spearman from the fire to the fire. I know that that's kind of ironic, moving him into a place of being damaged, but there's a reason for it. So I'm going to use this skill. Again, I'm able to do additional damage because this is an attacker versus a shield unit. Awesome. So he's able to do a good amount of damage. And then here, I'm actually going to take out this guy. I'm going to just take him out with my knives. The enemies. And I'm going to move my archer here. I'm going to use the skill, and then I'm going to take out the calamity before the enemy units have a chance to spawn. And that's it for this battle. He dies right there in the fire, and we get our card. This is how you get your Spiral of Destinies card. So that's it for this battle. Now let's go over the video that was provided to us by the Sword of Convallaria team on X. All right, so this is a video that we got that was basically posted just yesterday, or I believe in today, and it shows us the different types of additional mechanics. So here we actually have a Highland advantage. So in this specific case, there is a little icon here in the top right corner, and that one actually shows that you are going to be doing damage downwards, which means that you get Highland advantage because you're attacking down. So when it comes to archers or magic users, this becomes a massive benefit. You can see the enemy here. He actually says, it states that he's going to approximately lose 50% of his life. Well, and when you have Highland advantage, you actually are able to do quite a bit more damage. In this case, I believe you're able to do 75% damage versus the 50% due to that Highland suppression increase. So you can see it moved up 4 tiles because we moved up vertically 4 tiles in terms of height. So that gave us a massive boost to damage. Next here we have Gloria, and she's going to actually be doing a beautiful push move. So here she actually knocked down a character right off the cliff, and this is Xavier. He's actually going to be doing one of his AoE abilities that actually is going to be able to do pushback to 2 characters. They fall right into the river or moat, whatever you want to call it, and they die instantaneously. Doing these maneuvers, the push abilities, is massive. It's super important because you are going to be able to clear out some really powerful enemies just utilizing that instead of having to deal with them. Like that Calamity, for instance, it had 999 life, but I was able to push it. So if that Calamity was like near a river or a cliff, I would have been able to push it down that cliff and into the water, and there would have been instant death for it. So then I would have been able to finish that map that much quicker. Next here we have a different interactive object. In this case, it looks like kind of like a smoke screen. So here the smoke screen is kicked in, so my character, or rather your character, gets the ability to dodge it. This is another one. This is the barrels being exploding, so you can see they're running in consecutive order. So that's a great way to be able to clear out content. And this is, I want to pause it before it starts. So this is Ryowa doing an attack, a push attack on a boulder. That boulder is then going to be able to fly down, and it goes until the end of the map, and it actually does damage to anybody that it runs into. So that means your party members can also be affected by that, so keep that in mind before you push any rocks at any of your members. As well, I believe there's sometimes barrels that are horizontal, like wine barrels, and you can actually utilize those for the same purpose. Next up, we have the AoE damage of the fire burn. So super valuable. We saw it on the last one. Here, the barrel is going to explode, going to take out that guy, but basically just does AoE damage on all of these tiles. So if any of the enemies are in it or around it or moving into it, they are going to be getting damage every single time that turn starts again. Next up here, we have interactive object. This one, I believe it might be specific to this faction, which basically are furries, right, in this game. And basically this ability is going to be able to transverse a big open gap of water. Awesome. All right, next, this is Xavier again, and he's doing that same ability, and he's going to be able to push back to another enemy right off the cliff, and then they die instantly once they hit the ground. Cool. Here we have a hook shot. So the hook shot is able to pull characters in, or enemies into you, and so that way, let's just say, as an example, you're in a situation where the character is too far away for your other party members to be able to do damage to them. Well, with the hook shot, you're able to bring that enemy into you, so that way your characters, your other characters, your archers, and whatever other DPS units that you have can do damage to that unit because they're closer. There it is again. All right, next up we have, this basically is just an AoE skill ability. This doesn't do any damage. It looks like it's an area buff. So we do have a lot of area buffs and a lot of area debuffs in this game. Next up here is the assisting cover. Assisting cover is sometimes a trait, sometimes it's a skill or a attribute that is added to your character based on a skill that they utilize. In this specific case, Maitha does have the trait which allows her to change places with one of your own characters, so that way she takes the damage versus the other character. Super cool. Next up, we have Alert Shot. Alert Shot is basically setting up a little area that you are going to be monitoring. So this archer, and specifically to archer class, is setting up an area, and then this archer moved into the area. As soon as somebody moves into the area or moves within the area, they are going to be affected by a shot from the archer that set up the alert shot area. So there you go, that guy's taken out. Next here we have trap placement. So some characters are actually able to set traps, and these traps are super beneficial because, as you can see, an enemy can walk up and actually take a little bit of damage. It doesn't look like there's a lot of damage, but it's kind of like setting up your firewall. You can actually do some damage over time of characters that are walking up to you. I think that's going to be important in some missions in this game. Next up here we have the first strike reaction ability. So some characters have first strike reactions. Basically means that this enemy came in to do some damage to this unit, and because they have the first strike status, they were able to do damage back to that unit before the damage was done to them. So they were able to take out the unit before anything was done to them at all. Finally here, this is tactical skills. So this is what I was talking about being as a tactician. Your MC is able to use different abilities. You can set 3 abilities, and there is definitely a cost for each one of these abilities to utilize them. As an example, this one costs 450, and it is a time of 1. So like you can only use it once within the battle. So you equip this, and then you can use it at the beginning of your battle or during your battle, that kind of thing. So here we actually get to see this in action. So this is Ragnarok and Squipt. Here we actually see the MC placing a barrel down and then using the Thunderstruck ability to blow that barrel up, causing that one to blow up, doing some AoE damage, which causes the other barrel to blow up and doing more AoE damage and basically taking out that unit. Here we actually have Mitha hitting a poison weed. So what that does is basically you hit it and it rolls forward similar to the barrel and explodes with poison, does some damage around it, kick that barrel, let that barrel on, and it actually leaves kind of like brambles on the ground too that prevents them from going into those spaces. So you can use it to block paths and stuff. And I believe that is it for those skills. And hopefully this video did help you out a lot in terms of understanding exactly what you can do and how you can maneuver the map and some of the different features of your battle screen and UI to better understand where you need to go, who you need to attack, and basically set yourself up for success. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care, adventurers. Be well.